Our original worlds used to be one and the same.
That is, until one man's foolishness screwed it all up, splitting it into two separate places.
One was the world of the Bionis, and the other, Olrest.
But despite all that, thanks to generations of people fighting for the future, the worlds did eventually know harmony.
The two worlds torn asunder longed to be as they once were. But they were composed of opposing types of matter. Recombined, they would dissolve into light and cease to be.
So we put our heads together and built something that would let us escape destruction. We called it Origin. That thing in the sky is it.
At the heart of its workings is the Trinity processor core called Ontos. In other words, Alpha.
Let us away, towards a new world. Out with the old, and in once more with the new.
Come, enter the circle, quickly. It's just you and Matthew now.
Niall? What are you? You? Are you? Father?
You're just Mobius. But what's this power?
You would never understand. This is my choice!
Grandad, help. Please help.
It is done. Alpha.
I can't let you do this. What about Mum? Did she want this too?
You don't need to know. The burden is mine alone to bear.
Matthew,
Granddad!
take care of Niall. The future.
Granddad!
It's in your hands, Matthew.
For that Mobius and man to have that kind of power. To my fortune, it unshackled me from the chains of Ontos.
I've come to fetch you, Matthew.
Bastard! That's a hell of a lot more power than before!
It's the Avatar! Her emotions are heightened. They're feeding straight into Alpha's power.
If raw emotion is what affords him strength, it must be disrupted with emotions stronger still. You fail to reach such a zenith.
Sure about that? I am Niall, you know.
I am divorced of all that. All doubts. Misgivings gone! Like killing Grandad wasn't enough for you? Now Niall, too!
You must not lash out at him. Matthew. He's not your enemy. I promise you. You're flesh and blood.
Impossible. Can't be!
Yet, it was this man who tried to erase me. He is the one to blame.
You trying to bar our way? That's the vibe I'm getting here.
You're aware. Alpha said he was waiting for you. I'm saying the one keeping Niall in this world is you and none other.
And that's why you're trying to kill Matthew, is that it? No thought for saving Niall or anything?
In the current of the eternal flow, you need not justify the means.
Huh?
You will go no further.
Idiot! See some bloody sense, man!
The people who are of the city are the future of this world. And in Alpha's eyes, they are a crucial source of power.
So you killed them all? Killed Grandad?
It was Gondor's choice. I simply cut him down, as he desired.
Are you really that much of an idiot? It's not just us, you know. It's your ass as well. It's all of that and more that he meant. And if you can't get that into your head, you're about the dumbest bastard there is. Ah! What? And...
I've been waiting, brother dear.
Good afternoon. This is 11 News. Wednesday, May 16th. Weather in the Radamanthus Authority is fair. It is 24 degrees centigrade, 56% humidity. Continuing yesterday's placid highs, the day promises to be pleasant. Today's news will be delivered by me, Sienna Morgan, with additional analysis by our political correspondent, Barry Crowley.
Where's this? Whoa. What's all this supposed to be?
What is this place? Seriously?
I don't know. But it looks like there's a path at least.
Then let's follow it. No point in hanging around here.
Be careful. Place as strange as this, anything at all could happen.
Hey guys, how's it going? I hope you're all having a good day so far. Today, it's time to get started and finish the final chapter of Xenoblade Chronicles 3, Future Redeemed. I've been looking forward to this stream since... well, basically since Future Redeemed came out. Because, let me just say, if you thought Future Redeemed was exciting until now, you have seen nothing yet. This chapter is short, but it's packed full of just so much to talk about and so much that's gonna not only wrap up the trilogy itself in a really cool way, but also drop some really, really big hints towards what's coming in the future. So this place might look a little bit familiar to people who were here on the channel about 2 years ago, because all of these houses are ripped straight out of Xenoblade Chronicles X. Now, just controlling expectations, we are not in NLA. They're just reusing assets. But where we are, it's still pretty damn cool. And it's still a pretty big moment. I'm not going to say where we are just yet. I'm going to let the game do its talking. I will say, though, that radio that was in that cutscene didn't seem like much yet, did it? Listen to it. Because it's going to be dropping some stuff. Just don't let it distract you from the actual story going on, because that's been known to happen. Anyway, let's go.
Pretty. I've never seen anything like this.
Wow, those towers. It's like they're all sparkling.
And that enormous one. It's so huge. Bigger than a castle.
Shulk. This what I think it is.
Yeah. The source of us all. Zanza. No. Klaus's world.
Before the fall.
What was that about the world?
Before mine and Rex's worlds came to be, everything was one. And this is that place.
What you said at the base about the two worlds before they came together. This was even further back than those ones.
The lad's got brawn and brains. I'm impressed.
So what? We've traveled back into the past then?
No, not really. This is Origin's memory stage. We were directly underneath it.
Yeah. I think we're probably inside of it now.
Meaning, we're inside someone's memories?
Of all the people who could remember this era, only one's left.
Alpha, eh? But what's the point of him showing us all this? Is it really Alpha that's doing this? Or is it...
Piano. This melody. Huh? I can hear piano from up ahead.
Welcome to the world before the experiment. Welcome to Klaus's world. That's one hell of a view. Somewhere down there is the playable area of Moritha from Xenoblade 2. Probably that bit right over there at the edge of the horizon. And over there is the World Tree. The Radamanthus beanstalk itself. Somewhere up there, a certain man is about to open a certain gateway and set one of the best stories ever into motion. But that's not where our destination lies today. Instead, there's some nice piano music playing. This is actually the game's title theme, and it's being played diegetically in universe, which is pretty cool. Let's go see Nael. And remember what I said about that radio.
Nael!
Huh? Matthew! Welcome! I was waiting for you.
Well, Barry, don't you think this weather we're having is just perfect?
Nael, how come you're...
It's such a wonderful place, isn't it? I've always dreamed of this. A place we could live together. A place to call home. And not just for you and me, but for everyone we know.
Every who? When did they...
Taking 480,000 settlers to the Eta Carina Nebula in the Carina Sagittarius arm of the Milky Way.
Hey, miss! I'm hungry! Can we have a snack?
Okay. All right, wash your hands first and then make a line. Because today I've made something extra special.
Hooray!
The ninth vessel, departing in July, heralds a new generation of ultra-long-range colony ships, known officially as Philadelphia-class motherships.
There's plenty to go around. Just let me know if you want seconds.
Meaning that if all goes to plan, the project will send a total of 10 million people out into the great beyond. Now for our next story. It concerns the Saviorite Human Rights Protection Bill brought to Congress last summer. Earlier
See?
today, we heard that
Isn't this great?
have petitioned
There's
against
no
the
room for
proposal.
woes or worries here.
And as the Justice Ministry
Nothing to
says,
ruin our
the Special
happiness.
Commission on Human Rights debates once more on its validity.
Out there,
The possibility
there's
that
a
the
world
proposal
like
may be
this
scrapped
waiting.
seems more and more
A place for new lives to live as they please.
The proposed measure
Just
sparked
like
a lot of
this.
public debate.
Nael,
So many will
you
be watching the
can't...
government and the commission very
It was
closely.
promised to me. By him.
Him?
The person with the silver hair and kind eyes.
And indeed, that seems to be exactly what's happening right now.
He gave us this beautiful world.
And now, Dmitry
He said if we simply cast away the old lives,
has issued a statement concerning the matter at hand.
we can set out unburdened and all this can be ours. You see? We don't need any of this old life.
Certainly, it's beautiful. If it could truly stay this way. Nael, don't you know what came after? Have you ever seen it? Weren't you ever curious? I think you suspect already how it changed, what became of this world, and how people have always been. Ambition leads to pride. Even when they'd been granted limitless freedom. Even having built the perfect world for themselves. Humans yet desired the beyond. And then, the world became the way it is now.
Lies! This is all lies! Don't think your ludicrous stories are gonna change my mind. Alpha, he made me an inviolable promise. He said this is what awaits us at the end of our road. He said we could make a world like this.
Oh, come off it. Really? You think that?
Of course I do. Everything that we were denied is right here for us.
It's obviously a scam. Wherever you go, it's the same. You leave them, it only ends one way.
Oh, so we should just let them keep killing each other. Killing to live. What a load of crap. Good riddance to anything those butchers want to save.
They're not things. They're lives. And yeah, I can't forgive Mobius either. Reaping lives like grain during harvest. But come on. What crimes have their victims ever committed? What did they do? They weren't given a single choice. They were just trying to make the most of each moment, like us.
Everyone you know died for that. Are you okay with that, Matthew?
Course I'm bloody not! Truth is, what you're talking of doing would make you exactly the same as Mobius. Exactly the same. If you build a new world on that foundation, it'll only end one way. Like this. This here. And this is the future you want? You see, Nael, the lives that you and I have. You know that's a possible future for all the soldiers, right? If it weren't for those guys, we wouldn't even be here. Don't lose sight of the real enemy. You know who it is. Mobius or Alpha. It doesn't matter what you call them. The real enemy is whoever threatens our lives. Whoever tries to rob us of our hopes and dreams. Let's build a future, Nael. The one our elders wanted. With our own hands. Come on. What do you say?
Matthew.
Nael!
Matthew!
What a farce. Your rhetoric is rife with falsehoods. I cannot stand such drivel.
Alpha.
I safeguard this world by removing what is time-worn But it seems that you continue to contravene me. You spur these olden mortals to action.
I am your conscience.
Conscience? There is no place for it in the Trinity processor.
It's you there's no place for, Alpha. 'Cause Klaus, he entrusted the future to us. So he could atone for his past. He followed his conscience.
And he failed to realize that his conscience led him astray. An atavistic delusion. It is common among the old. Wholly unnecessary for all subsequent life.
I knew it. Of course that would be your vision of the world. As long as there's people like you, nothing's ever going to change. Casting off the old world and its people and just walking away.
You could not comprehend it, Matthew.
Turning around, going back, looking for a new way forward. Doing that time and again. That's how you build a future. Hey, but you're just an obsolete piece of scrap. So no wonder you don't get it.
You say I am obsolete?
Life is on our side. And since there's none in you, you're destined for the scrap heap!
Let's do this, Matthew. Time to bring things to an end.
I hear you. Wait for me, Niall.
Yeah, you heard that radio right. It did say Project Exodus. I wonder where we've heard that before. So, that cutscene, when I first watched it on my first playthrough, I had to pause right here and go back to the event theatre. Because I got so caught up in just all of the deep lore and references that radio started throwing out, that I completely lost track of what was going on in the actual story with Matthew and Nael. There's a lot to talk about there. Like, honestly, I could go on for ages about everything that radio said. But the final boss is right there. I think he needs to be dealt with first. So, we'll talk about all that later. For now, let's take down Alpha and listen to some really fucking kick-ass music.
Nobody needs this time-worn refuge.
Niall! Wait for me! I'll save you, I swear! This is the move! I lost the enemy's attention!
not done yet. This doesn't look good. Gotta lie down for it.
How did they get to Rex?
I'll be your opponent. That's a big help.
Don't you wish for salvation?
Time to destroy the enemy's attention.
Let's bring it together, guys.
Seize the moment.
How do you like that?
We're doing it.
Gotta go with your gut, eh?
Do you hear that? Just like Zed before him, his theme actually carries on into the chain attack. I probably don't need to do one because he's very nearly dead. But I just wanted to show this off. Right, let's kick his ass. Rex, we'll start with you. But yeah, I wasn't lying when I said it was a short chapter then. It really does just kind of get straight to the point, which I don't mind. I mean, I've kind of said before that I find it a little bit weird they split Future Redeemed into chapters anyway, because a lot of them are just quite short, but it is what it is. It's just how they chose to present things. And I do enjoy the chapter cliffhangers. They're a nice little moment in the story. Right, Nicole. Alpha here is putting up much less of a fight than I was expecting. Then again, it is only phase 1. Slight spoiler there.
Careful! Crap! Now he's trying to suck Matthew in too.
He's found it. The trace of turmoil. That's still within him.
Discard the past. Let it all go, Matthew.
I won't!
What harm did your kind do? You have done nothing wrong. You simply strode forth towards the future. But the olden humans, they did not find value in it. You must have realized this is not where you belong.
Stop!
Why make a martyr of yourself? Why be a stepping stone? For as long as the old is not excised, mankind has no future.
The old? You say?
It's in your hands, Matthew.
Gotta be kidding me. I'm nowhere near done yet. I'm not dying with so much left undone. I'm not done!
Matthew! Niall!
You again.
En, don't mistake me. I am one who lives in the now. My blade knows no regrets.
Huh. I thought you'd say that. And that's why I can't afford to just take off. Hey.
Matthew.
Hey. You okay? Then let's seize it together. Our true future.
I'm sorry.
It's nothing. En, I've got a crapload of stuff I want to say to you. But right this instant, I'm glad we're both fighting on the same side. Am I right? There you go. Mr. Alpha, sir. You want to go so badly? Then pick up and go. This world, it belongs to us!
Regrettable, Matthew. I'd hoped that we could celebrate the day of departure together. But very well. It seems that I must forsake you. The olden ones, olden life, your olden notions.
My god, did you hear that guitar? Let's listen.
you! Don't get too crazy! It's me! Thanks for that!
You're not getting away!
That's not done yet!
Hold your guard tight!
Gotta lie down. Impossible! Rex!
Know when to hold back.
That's it! Let's get her done!
This final boss theme goes so fucking hard. My god. It's so good. Prior to the release of Future Redeemed, I wasn't sure what Xenoblade final boss theme was my favourite because they were all good in their own way. But after this, this is just the clear winner. It's so good. Right, Shulk, let's go. I'm hoping I've not popped the chain attack early, but I know that when he goes into vision mode, it starts him towards using his super move, and I'm pretty sure that will just wipe my party, so I want to be very careful there. Okay, yeah, I popped it way too early. Bugger. That was why I was making sure A had a vision ready to go, just in case. Okay, it looks like it's still doing a little bit of damage and getting through, so I might as well keep this going and just see what I can do with it, rather than completely giving up on it. Just as soon as this chain attack is over, I'm going to have to quickly switch to A and make sure she pops that vision. Oh, not L. God damn it. So, yeah, Not L is in the party now. I've got a lot to say about Not L in the party, but not right now. Let's go Rex. And even though he's not listed in the party, N is fighting alongside us as well, which is pretty cool. Like, we spent the whole game with him as a despicable villain. And we get to end it fighting side by side with him. Yeah, this chain attack is really not doing much. Future Redeemed's more like N Redeemed. I mean, he did kill his son, so I'm not sure I'd say that he's redeemed, but... I guess he's got a little bit more going for him now. Was an accident in it. True. Just manslaughter. Okay, this is starting to do some damage now. I think that means I've broken through his vision mode, which I think means I've blocked his perfect Monado Buster, which means I think I might stand a chance of actually surviving here. But maybe I didn't waste my chain attack. I think I'm still going to pop the vision though, just to be safe. I'm hoping it's only something he can do once, because if he does it again, I might be screwed. Right, come on, Rex. Spin to win. You know the drill. Okay, that's more like it. That's some good damage. Yeah, we've definitely broken through. Right, A. Yeah, flawed Monado Buster. Perfect. Probably don't need the vision to survive that, but best to play it safe. Rex, I'm going to need you to topple wherever you are. Do you not have it ready? Yes, you do. Yeah, I think I do prefer this as a final fight to Zed. Zed is very cinematic, and there's a lot that goes on in that fight that's really cool. Requiem for the older ones. I do not like the sound of whatever the fuck that is. Oh, that did a lot of damage. But the problem with the Zed fight is it's just really long, and it's kind of just a bit of a slog. Whereas this fight is quite nice and snappy, and it is just more of an actual challenging fight. Oh, that ain't great. Where's Glim? Where's Glimmer? There we go. Right, let's topple him. Yeah, the main problem with Zed is if you die during that fight. Like, how they handled the point of no return is a lot better in this one. I didn't really mention it. But you kind of just start in this area in front of Alpha. You can choose to start the fight, or you can just leave. There basically isn't a point of no return. Okay, you know what? I think it's vision time. I don't like the look of that. Bernardo Purge, eh? I'm not a Telephia. Right. Chain attack time. Should be a proper one this time. Is that going to do enough for Nicole? Maybe. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, I'm not sure if you have to redo phase 1 if you die to this. I can't say I've ever actually died to it. Let's go Matthew. Okay, I'm not finishing with a smash, which is a shame, but I think it should still do enough damage to kill. He is very close to death. That does depend on what characters show up in this last set of orders, though. Okay, good. Right, I've not been screwed over. Right. Oh, it's so close to dead. There is a slither of health there left. Right, I think Rex is probably going to get the kill here. Or does he not have an overkill state? Okay, no, he doesn't. That's it.
He's still standing? After all this? Cheers to old Klaus! His gifts just keep on giving! Damn it! If only those two were here!
Matthew, raise up your fists.
What?
I will grant you the sword's power. Transfer it to your fists of the end.
That light.
No way! Drive it in! Release the power of Ouroboros!
Shut the hell up already! I ain't taking orders from you!
Matthew, your actions have made the future uncertain. Have you no regrets? Given a choice of this magnitude, surely there is doubt.
Oh, believe me, got 'em in spades. That's why we move forward. Always ahead. See ya. Alpha.
Right we are. Just one last thing then.
Yeah. You got it.
Hey!
Alpha was, and I am, an avatar. The spirit of your world. Just like Alpha needed all of you. You and your world. You need me.
An avatar? What?
It's no more. So someone else has to pick up the slack.
The annihilation events, they'll keep happening whether you like it or not. The world needs a bit of propping up.
Until the time comes. Yes.
Hold up a minute. Who's someone? And for how long?
Well, you work that part out.
Don't do this! You don't have to sacrifice yourselves!
It's not like that. We're helping.
And that's different how exactly?
Fundamentally. Glimmer. As long as you lot do your part to change this world, it'll all go back to normal.
And if we don't manage, then what? My lifetime. It's barely a blip.
If you don't, pass it on.
Huh?
Let someone else carry on your dream. That's how we've always rolled. Us lot.
It's not much, but we can offer you a gift. We can imbue you with our life, keep the wheels turning. That way, you'll be able to live out the rest of your lives. Enough time to do what you must.
No, but...
Oh, hey, don't get us wrong now. We're just taking a breather. It's all right. We'll meet again. Trust me.
Teacher. Boss. This is against the rules. You know this.
Don't be a spoil sport now. If it was them, I don't think they'd even bat an eyelid at helping.
Admittedly. Well, I suppose you have earned it. Very well then. I didn't see or hear anything.
Thanks a lot, Alvis.
Then, it's all up to you now. With us taking the role of the Avatar, Zed may well seize upon it to gain power. What we did, and all that concerns Origin, will become but a dim memory. Nevertheless, our intentions will live on, and one day coalesce again. Be it tomorrow, or in 1,000 years. Surely, the time will eventually come. I can see it, clear as day.
Our future is in your hands.
We'll be waiting, at the far edge of time. You actually did see it coming, didn't you? All that's happened.
Right. And all that will.
The only thing I see is what the flow encompasses. But your hope lives on. That much is certain.
Righty-ho. Want to get back to it, then?
I highly doubt you have the strength left.
Same goes for you.
Mobius will never change. In any way. Forever transfixed. They will guard the endless now to the last.
Including you.
Naturally.
Well then, we'll be busy.
What if you cannot make it happen? Your lives are pitifully short.
We went over this. You got wax in your ears. If I can't, someone else will, down the line. Who knows? Maybe it'll even be you.
Friend fail yet again. Did Riku not say? Should not use so much noise bite.
What? You said to throw in a bunch of them. You told me.
Riku did not. Nickel must have poor hearing.
Honest to Spark. He's still going at it?
What do you mean still? It has to be done. We're powering up the Ouroboros stone. Just about done with it now. We've accumulated all this data. Now if we could only encode it in the operative photon wave frequency.
If you get it to work, we'll be able to deploy that power whenever we feel like it, right?
Right. I'll admit the photons have limited capacity, so we won't be able to empower quite that many people all in one go.
Oh, more importantly, you don't want to be late. The send-off?
Oh, that's right. I better get moving.
Take care, all right? You sure you're going to be fine alone?
Oh, yeah. It'll be a relief, if anything.
Well, someone's full of himself.
Matthew, thank you for everything.
Ah, and thanks right back at you. Also, while I'm gone, keep an eye on the city, eh? Nael, Nickel, Glimmer, Panacea, Linka. Oh, and you, Riku.
Why, Riku lost.
Once I found us some friends, I'll come home again.
Get back safe.
Sure. Alrighty. Time to start rebuilding the world. Matthew Van Damme is out of here!
You're standing at a loss in front of a door that's been closed for so long. With your foreseeing eyes, what do you see? Until you open it, you cannot know. Afraid to see what could be on the other side. Oh, can't you see how much I feel the same as you? It seems we just need to let it all go free. I've seen that look before, the stare of your fearful looking eyes, that see you by the door. So just walk through, don't take too long, 'cause everything you've said, you'll find it there. In a future.
There we go. That's peak fiction done. We'll talk about this stuff tomorrow. What a game.
Record updated.
I like your attitude.
Oh, thank you, sir. Thank you, Sap. That's
Record updated.
that's really appreciated.
Record updated.
So yeah. That's Future Redeemed. That's the entire trilogy done. What was that blue light at the end? Maybe one day we'll know. So, before I kind of really get into what I'm going to be talking about, because there is a lot to talk about, I first want to talk about that credits theme because, holy hell, it's an amazing bit of music. It's called Future Awaits. It was composed by Yasunori Mitsuda and was sang by a lady called Joanne Hogg. If you don't know who she is the one that sung the ending theme for Xenogears and Xenosaga 1. She was 61 when she sang that, which I think just makes an already incredible song even more impressive. The instrumentation throughout it is perfect. The flute is amazing. And that's not the Xenoblade 3 flute. That's the flute that they used for a lot of Xenogears' soundtrack. So they really were bringing everything full circle. The lyrics just perfectly fit the series. And then there's the whole credit sequence with it. You know, all those moments from throughout the series, all those characters that we've known and loved. I'll admit, I don't really get that emotional at the story of Future Redeemed itself. Shulk and Rex sacrificing themselves is a little bit sad, but there's always the caveat that you know once Xenoblade 3 itself ends, the worlds are restored, they're going to be fine. So it kind of prevents me from getting too worked up about that. But man, those credits get me every time. If you've heard of post-game depression, you know, when you feel really down when you finish a game, this credit sequence, it gives me post-series depression. And I know Xenoblade as a series isn't over. I know it's going to continue in some form. But the trilogy, the Klaus saga, the Trinity saga, whatever you want to call it, that story is wrapped up. It's done. There really aren't many loose ends. It's done. All those characters, who knows if we're going to see them again? You know, we might not. So, I have a lot to talk about, as I've said. And just to kind of make sure I get through it at a good pace and I'm not constantly being interrupted by chat, I am probably going to fall behind on chat a little bit. I'm going to try and break it up into segments here so I'm not, you know, getting so ridiculously far behind. But, yeah, bear with me because there's a lot to talk about. What am I going to do with my life now? I'll talk about that tomorrow. Because obviously there's still post-game stuff to do, so we're not quite done. So I guess the question that everyone would be asking after this is, Is Future Redeemed a good DLC? How does it stack up to Torna, the previous DLC? And that's actually somewhat of a complicated question to answer. Because it doesn't really connect to the plot of Xenoblade 3 itself all that much. Besides the fact that it's in the same world, and besides End's role in the story, which, to be fair, is fairly sizable, it's more connected to 1 and 2 than 3. And so I feel very bad for someone that started the series with 3 when, oh, I love this game, I'm going to try the DLC, because they're going to jump into it and go, oh my god, I have no idea what the fuck is going on. But as a long-time fan of the series, as someone who has followed this story since not quite the beginning, but close to the beginning, Future Redeemed is goddamn fucking incredible. It's honestly a masterpiece. Sure, it doesn't enhance the base game in the same way that Torna does for Xenoblade 2. But it takes the entire trilogy and just kind of perfectly ties it all together in a nice little bow. I quite enjoy how the story starts fairly small scale, essentially just a random guy looking for his sister. And then it kind of just dovetails into deep, serious lore, really high stakes, and I kind of love when stories kind of start in kind of a different, unexpected place than where they're eventually going to go to. I don't know what it is about that I like. It's just satisfying to see. The characters are a real strong suit of Future Redeemed, I think. Matthew is an absolutely fantastic protagonist, and he's a bit of a fresh air compared to the other ones. He's like if you took the Ryan or Zeke character archetype and made them into the protagonist. He's a bit of a himbo, bit goofy, bit silly, but he's also got quite a fair amount of emotional depth to him. He's not as dumb and as simple as he seems at first glance, and he's just entertaining to watch. He's honestly, despite the fact that he has less screen time than any other protagonist, very quickly rose up my ranks. I do like Matthew a lot. A is also a great character, complements Matthew very well. It's kind of his straight man, but she has her own snark and sass. I can see how she was built off of Alvis as a character, but she just has a lot going for her and enough differences to make her just stand out as her own character, and is a really strong pairing with Matthew as well. Shulk and Rex, I think, are handled really, really well. One thing I have noticed is that when media tends to bring back beloved characters and age them up, they usually fall into one of two pitfalls. They either don't change them enough, and the characters just feel flanderized like a caricature, or they change them too much, and they're just not the same character anymore. But I feel like with Shulk and Rex, they struck a really nice balance. They're still recognizably them, but they've clearly grown, they've clearly matured, they've clearly been through things since we last saw them. The only weak spot, I would say, with the main party is Nicole and Glimmer. And I'm not saying they're bad characters by any means, they're just the least fleshed out. They're both still likable, and they perfectly fill the role that they're meant to fill. It's just that at the end of the day, it's a DLC. There's only so much screen time to go around, and obviously the other characters were more of a priority. I need a sip of water. Alpha, I think, is kind of the perfect villain to end the trilogy on. He's the original Xenoblade. He is the Monado. He's also the Ontos core crystal, and the whereabouts of Ontos was one of the biggest mysteries that we had left going into Xenoblade 3. It's just kind of the perfect way to wrap everything up. And he's also kind of a perversion of Klaus, in a way. Klaus is the one that started this saga off, and then his warped reflection is the final threat that we deal with. But it's not just Klaus that Alpha is a reflection of. He's also a warped, perverse copy of Ouroboros, basically. His goal is their goal, except more extreme and more destructive. And I think that makes the themes of Future Redeemed complement the base game very nicely. The base game is all about not getting stuck in the present, in the moment, moving towards the future. But Future Redeemed adds the caveat that, yes, move towards the future, but build it in the right way. Don't just leave the past behind, take it with you, learn from it. And I think that's a message that just suits the series very well, and is the perfect note to end it off on. Plus, it also really works on a meta level as well. Prior to the release of Xenoblade 3, Tetsuya Takahashi, the big brain behind all of Xenoblade, said that by the end of the game and its expansion pass, we would have an idea of the future direction of the series. Now, naturally, a lot of people clung onto some other things that happened in this stream and went, that's what he's talking about. And I think that will play a part in what he's talking about. But honestly, I think the core of what he is talking about are these themes, because they paint the picture of the future of the series. It's not going to just stagnate and repeat the same things over and over. It's going to move into the future, be something new, but it's not going to forget where it came from. Which, okay, that's a very vague message for the future. It doesn't really tell us much. But knowing Takahashi, I feel like that is the kind of tease that he would want to leave us with. He's a very, very cryptic man at times. What I do also like a lot about Future Redeemed is how it kind of better connects Xenoblade 3 to the rest of the series' lore, particularly through how it uses the Trinity processor. Obviously, Ontos has a pretty big role, but it's also revealed to be the basis for Origin, which makes everything surrounding Origin connect much better to Xenoblade 1 and 2 and just make a lot more sense in the grander picture of the series. The reveal that Numa is the source of the Ouroboros powers was one of the coolest moments in the game. Just the shot of the glove opening, the reveal, that was awesome. But it also makes a lot more sense than the explanation for the Ouroboros powers that we were given in the base game. I like Nia a lot, and obviously she is powerful, but it never quite sat right with me that she was the source of the powers, because she's not that powerful. And now we know she isn't that powerful. She was just channeling Numa's power into the stones, because obviously she has a connection to them. It's not like she's a stranger to them. She is their sister wife. And then we have the implication, and this was confirmed in the game's art book, that the power of N's sword comes from the Logos core crystal, as in everyone's favorite best boy Malos, which is also really cool. And it also kind of serves to explain why the Ouroboros powers in the base game are a lot more formidable and powerful, because they're not just running off of Numa anymore. Essentially, Numa and Logos' powers have fused together through Matthew channeling the fist through the sword. And it also kind of recontextualizes the end of Xenoblade 3. You could look at it as Numa and Logos coming together to beat the shit out of Ontos, which is a pretty funny way of looking at things. Now, how the Logos core crystal is still around, I don't know, because we saw Malos die. We saw that son of a bitch crystal shatter into like a million pieces. But Takahashi was quite coy about that. He said that he couldn't tell us how the crystal was still around yet. So clearly, Malos is coming back in some way at some point in the future, which is quite exciting because I love Malos as a character. And then we also got to see a glimpse of Klaus's world, which is something that, obviously, it's not the first time we've seen it, but we've seen it in a lot more detail than we've ever seen it before. It's something that fans have been asking to see for a long time, and they used it as an opportunity to drop some bombshells on us, which was really quite exciting. Like, that is the note you end the trilogy on. All in all, I think Future Redeemed has a fantastic story. It doesn't overstay its welcome. It's nice and snappy. It has a great protagonist, and even ignoring all the big lore implications, just has a lot of heart in its story. And then it does that while not only being a pseudo prequel, to Xenoblade 3, it also perfectly concludes the trilogy. It's peak fiction. I don't know how they do it. Monolith, they have the special sauce of telling a fantastic story, and I hope they can keep doing it, and I have no doubt that they can. Best DLC ever. I mean, I still think overall I would say Xenoblade 2's DLC is the better package. I think what it adds to the base game is a little bit more than what Xenoblade 3 adds, and Torna is just that good as a standalone expansion. But Future Redeemed definitely is a very close contender. And yeah, it is more of a DLC for the series as a whole, Sap. You're absolutely right. Shulk is just tired. Oh, who can blame him? Who can blame him? So, you know what? Before I get started on the next chunk, I think it's a good time to refill my drink because I'm running low. And my throat is already sore, and I'm not even close to being like halfway done with everything that I want to say. There really is just a lot to talk about in this final chapter. There we go. Do I want to do the other one? Nah, I think I'll be okay. So, gameplay-wise, I'm not as positive on Future Redeemed as I am with the story, which is kind of why Torna edges it out a bit for me, because I think Torna is just a straight improvement on Xenoblade 2 in terms of its gameplay. Obviously, it still is Xenoblade 3 as a base, so it's not awful by any means. I love Xenoblade 3's battle system, and anything built off that is still going to be great. But all of the changes made to it are downgrades, in my opinion. The Unity combos just aren't as interesting as interlinking. I don't like that smashing and bursting has been tied into them, because it just makes... Maybe it's technically more balanced, but it's less fun, because you can't spam them as easily. And it's a single-player RPG. You're not playing against anyone. You don't need it to be balanced. You need it to be fun. And then on top of all that, the party is just kind of, maybe contradicting myself a little bit here, horrifically unbalanced. Rex and Matthew are both very fun to play. They are great characters, but they are way too powerful, and the tanks just struggle to keep up. Which, you know, depending on how you build your party, isn't a problem, but I know it can be a problem for some people. Outside of battles, though, I think Future Redeemed is quite a big improvement on Xenoblade 3. There's a ton of quality of life changes that needed to be made, and I really do like all of the new systems. I know that the DLCs can kind of be a bit of a test bed for new mechanics that they want to introduce in the next game, because we saw that happen with Future Connected, we saw that happen with Torna, like the camp system was in Torna, and then it was fully fleshed out in Xenoblade 3. And it would be really nice to see some of these new systems expanded and fully fleshed out for a new game. The crafting system, I think, is quite cool. It's an interesting way to unlock new little areas to explore and stuff to find. The AP system, I think, is amazing. It's a really good way to encourage you to actually engage with all the various elements of the game and get stronger that way, rather than just mindlessly grinding and pushing through. The side quests are decent. None of them really stand out all that much, but none of them overstay their welcome. None of them are annoying. None of them are tedious. Sure, we don't have the highs of some of the base game side quests, but again, it is just a DLC, so we do kind of have to control and manage expectations, and I've had a fairly smooth time going through them all this playthrough. Plus, I don't know how they did it, but they took the community system and they somehow made it not shit, so they get a lot of points for that. And then last but not least, we have the game's soundtrack. There aren't many new tracks, but the ones that there are all goddamn amazing. Every single one of them is a contender for the best track in this series in my eyes. They're all so fucking good. they cooked with the soundtrack. I know Xenoblade always has a good soundtrack, but Future Redeemed in particular just sits at the pinnacle of the series, in my opinion. I love Future Redeemed. It's not my favorite part of Xenoblade 3. But it makes me feel all kinds of hype and excitement, and it sent off a series that's beloved to me in a really good way. Left me satisfied with everything. I think most questions that I have been answered in some capacity. And it has me hyped for the future. I can't wait to see what Monolith Soft are going to do next. Because you just know it's going to be great. Speaking of what they're going to do next, I think it's time to talk about the radio. Because the radio... Oh, man, the radio. Oh, so... First, I want to talk about the appearance of the radio, and then I'm going to kind of go through what it said. I've got a transcript here of all of the dialogue. I'm going to read through it, and then explain all of the references in it for those who might not have got them all. So, the radio has a specific logo on it. That logo is the Vector Industries logo. Now, Vector are a pretty important company from Xenosaga, and the reason why they're important is that they're the company that funded the creation of Cosmos. So, that's not just a small reference, that's a pretty damn big thing. The radio also has some numbers on it. I think they're supposed to be like the various channels or frequencies that it can pick up. And all of those numbers represent the release date of one of the Xeno games going all the way back to Xenogears, which is really, really cool. Anyway, should probably have another drink before I start reading through this. It's time to read some radio dialogue. So, good afternoon. This is 11 News, Wednesday, May 16th. Weather in the Radamanthus Authority is fair. So this is probably the most obvious reference. I wouldn't even say it's a reference. It's just kind of setting the scene of where we are. But Radamanthus is the space station on top of the World Tree. So I guess the Radamanthus Authority is the area that's being controlled from that space station. It is 24 degrees centigrade, 56% humidity. Continuing yesterday's placid highs, the day promises to be pleasant. The day's news will be delivered by me, Sienna Morgan, with additional analysis by our political correspondent Barry Crow-Lee. Well, Barry, don't you think this weather we're having is just perfect? I do. I think the spotless sky today will make it easy for us all to celebrate last night's momentous occasion. Well then, let's talk more about that. Most of our listeners know what we're talking about, but we'll recap for any latecomers. At midnight on the 16th, the Earth-Life Colonization Project's 8th mothership, the Icarus, taking 480,000 settlers to the Eta Carinae Nebula in the Carinae Sagittarius arm of the Milky Way. So, the Earth-Life Colonization Project is the group that were behind the evacuation of Earth in Xenoblade Chronicles X. That's a hell of a thing to just mention. The Sagittarius arm of the galaxy is where humanity founded their new homeworld in the backstory to Xenogears. And then we have the Icarus. So the Icarus isn't a Xeno reference specifically, but between Icarus and White Whale, the ECP really does like to give their ships mythological names. The Icarus is the 8th interstellar colony ship dispatched as part of Project Exodus, bringing the total number of colonists sent out to the stars to 3 million. So Project Exodus is the other name for the Earth evacuation in Xenoblade X. Now, having these two names to refer to the evacuation is actually a quirk of the localization. In Japan, it's only ever referred to as just the one name, but for whatever reason, when they localized it, they had ECP being the ones behind it, and then Exodus being the project itself. Xenoblade 3 was localized by an entirely different group of people than Xenoblade X. And yet, they went out of their way to remain consistent with this quirk of the localization. Which, traditionally, the Xeno series is not good at that. Which there's another example of that I'll get into later. So, the fact that they went out of their way to ensure that this reference fully lands in English as well as Japanese, I think kind of confirms that they aren't just reusing the name. This is a proper reference to Xenoblade X. The Coalition government plans to send out ships 9 to 13 in the course of this year. So, another X reference here. The Coalition government was the government in charge of the Earth before it was destroyed in X, and it does get mentioned quite a bit in the story and side quests in that game. The 9th vessel, departing in July, heralds a new generation of ultra-long-range colony ships, known officially as Philadelphia-class motherships. So, the main ship from Xenogears, the Eldritch, is a Philadelphia-class ship. They are the same kind of ship, essentially. And there's also the fact that the ship is launching in July. If you guys remember the intro to Xenoblade X, that game begins in July of 2054. Do you see all these details that are starting to really line up here? Each vessel boasts a capacity of up to 1.5 million people, meaning that if all goes to plan, the project will send a total of 10 million people out into the great beyond. So, what they're doing here is drawing a distinction between the old ships that carried about 500,000 people and the new Philadelphia ships that carry about 1.5 million people. The distinction between the two types of colony ships and the resulting ethical debate of how they achieve the increase in passengers is a pretty major plot point in Xenoblade X's final chapter. Again, these aren't just small references, these are deep lore details that are lining up a little bit too well. Now, for our next story. It concerns the Saviorite Human Rights Protection Bill, brought to Congress last summer. So, the Saviorites are the group that attacked the space station when Klaus was doing the experiment in Xenoblade 2. In Japanese, they share a name with a group called the Salvators from Xenosaga. That is the inconsistent localization that I was talking about just a minute ago. Earlier today, we heard the 13 authorities have petitioned against the proposal, and as the Justice Ministry's 7th Special Commission on Human Rights debates once more on its validity, the possibility that the proposal may be scrapped seems more and more likely. The proposed measure has sparked a lot of public debate, so many will be watching the government and the Commission very closely. There was much apprehension about the bill failing to make it all the way through the legislative process. So, there's not really a reference here as such, but the Saviorites being a group that are being denied human rights does give them some motivation as to why they were attacking the World Tree in the first place. And indeed, that seems to be exactly what's happening right now. Indeed. And now, Dmitry Yuriev, councilperson from the Minos Authority, has issued a statement concerning the matter at hand. Please stay with us. So, the Minos Authority refers to one of the other two space elevators that were mentioned in the Siren model kit lore. I can't remember what the third one was called, but it's not really important to this discussion. And then we have Dmitry Yuriev, who is probably the call-out reference that I see talked about the most online, because he is a major villain in Xenosaga. It's quite a big deal that he's been name-dropped. So, what does this all mean? There's a lot of references to Xenoblade X. There are quite a few to Xenosaga, and there are a couple to Xenogears. Now, unfortunately, Square Enix are Square Enix, so we know the Xenogears references really can't be anything more than that. And realistically, worst case, the same is probably true for the X and Saga references. You know, Future Redeemed is the first time that Takahashi has actually brought a series and a story to a conclusion. So he was probably just referencing the ones that didn't make it, using terms and lore that we were familiar with to very quickly flesh out Klaus's world without having to come up with anything new. But I don't want to be realistic. Because being realistic's really fucking boring. I've been wanting them to acknowledge X for ages. I'm not just going to hear them do it and then go, it's just a reference. I refuse. And like me, the fan base as a whole got very excited about this radio and the things that it said. The thing is, though, both Xenoblade X and Xenosaga would need to be retconned in some ways to fit them in with the trilogy. But that isn't the biggest issue with this. The biggest issue is that X and Saga cannot coexist in the same continuity. It's impossible. In Xenosaga, there are no aliens. And that's not just a case of aliens not being present and you just don't see them, but they're out there. It is very explicitly confirmed as a major plot point in Xenosaga that humans are the only sentient life in the galaxy. And in X, that's very obviously not the case. So, upon the fan base realizing this, I think you can probably tell what happened. They very quickly went tribal. Lots of arguments broke out, and unfortunately, Xenosaga seems to have won for now in the eyes of the fan base because all of the big YouTubers backed it. Yeah. And I do think it's a bit of a shame that a moment so exciting very quickly devolved into toxic arguments. And one thing that does irk me a bit is the bias that was on display from some of these YouTubers, because they were very quick to downplay the X references and make out that it's straight up impossible for X to connect, while making it sound like the Saga references were bigger than they are, and downplaying the contradictions. So obviously, yes, the Saga references are big and in your face. You got the logo right there. They name drop a major villain. But that's it. Two things are referenced, but the surrounding details of those things aren't there. Now, I've never played Xenosaga. I know a fair bit about the story, because obviously I'm a big fan of the series. I've read up on it. But it's not available in Europe. I've never been able to play it. So I'm not going to go into too much detail about all these contradictions and why I don't think it can connect properly, because I don't want someone who knows more than me to come in and make me look like an idiot. But what I am an expert in is Xenoblade Chronicles X. And those references weren't just references. I was going through them, and so many details line up. And I don't think it's as hard to make that connection work as some people seem to think it is. Because the way I see it, there's really only one contradiction that needs to be addressed. And that is the fate of the Earth. So in the Xenoblade trilogy, Klaus does his thing. There's a bright white light that originates from the Earth's upper atmosphere, consumes it all, it disappears and splits into two dimensions. In Xenoblade X, there are two alien factions warring over the Earth. A bright light appears in the Earth's atmosphere, consumes it, and the Earth has got... Wait a minute. Those fates don't sound as different as they're often made out to be. And the thing is, in X, we never find out how the Earth is destroyed. We assume that one of the two alien races destroyed it, because that's kind of the natural conclusion of what we see, but it's very explicitly called out, I believe in Chapter 6, that the Ganglion, one of the two major forces battling over Earth, don't know what happened. Suddenly, there was a bright light, and they found themselves on a world that has a suspicious amount of Xenoblade 1 references. I don't think it's impossible to make those two events the same event. In fact, I think it would be very easy to do. Now, obviously, the obvious question is, well, why didn't we see the ganglion or the ghost in Xenoblade 2? And then I would ask you, why did we not see the conduit in Xenoblade 1? They aren't strangers to retconning that scene to connect games in if they want to. And even if they don't want to retcon it, there's a perfectly logical explanation for why we didn't see the ganglion. They just didn't get there yet. The fighting in X's opening cutscene is entirely localized over one half of the Earth, and we know for a fact that it's the Northern Hemisphere, because in Chapter 4 of Xenoblade X, Elmer specifically says that a ganglion skull was seen in Beijing. Last I checked, Beijing is in the Northern Hemisphere. Do you know where the World Tree is? It's on the equator. And last I checked, there's quite a bit of distance between Beijing and the equator. They just weren't there yet. Plus, I think aliens invading the world and threatening to blow everyone up is a pretty good motivating factor to kick the Saviorites' asses into gear and make them go, you know what, maybe we should steal the ultimate power they've got up there. Now, obviously, here I am ranting about Xenoblade X and how it can clearly connect in. But at the end of the day, what I say, what the fans say, doesn't really matter. It's down to Monolith to do what they want to do with this. But I'm just passionate about Xenoblade X, and those details line up too well. There are too many Xenoblade 1 references in X for it to just be a cheeky nod. Too many areas in Ionios in Xenoblade 3 look like areas in Xenoblade X. There's just too much that lines up. I'm not saying that Xenoblade X is canon. I don't have the authority to say that. It's totally canon, guys. Come on. Just let me have this. Please, just let me have this. Obviously, they're teasing a Kid Icarus Uprising remaster. I mean, I'd take it. Could be argued that X would be more likely from a legal standpoint. That is a very good point. Yeah, that is... obviously, we know that Bandai Namco... That's not how you say it. Namco Bandai... Is it Bandai Namco? Is it Namco? No, it's Bandai Namco, isn't it? Yeah. Obviously, they're willing to play ball because they let Monolith use them in both Xenoblade 2 and this, but X would obviously be a lot easier. Which one gets to be canon? Not the official writers talking about some references that currently mean nothing. I mean, car keys, yeah, you are right. You are being logical. You're also being a bit boring. No, I'm kidding. Obviously, there's nothing wrong with keeping expectations reasonable. But sometimes you just want to not be reasonable and hope, you know. Especially when it's concerning one of your favorite games ever, possibly getting some kind of follow-up. Sounds like retconning them to work together. Sounds like a job for a remaster. Exactly. Remaster could do that. If you consider a certain Xenoblade 2 feature to be canon, problem solved. Are we talking about challenge mode? I know the canonicity surrounding both that and Cosmos being a blade is a bit dubious. But I suppose there's nothing stopping Monolith from going, hey, yeah, no, that works. I think Bandai comes first in the name. Okay, yeah. I always get their name kind of mixed up for some reason. That was in reference to fans arguing which ones. Yeah, that is true. I suppose the fans arguing and which side winning doesn't really mean anything. At the end of the day, it is Monolith that decide. I just find it funny how quickly certain figures within the community, naming no names, they know who they are, were very quick to kind of just go, no, X fans, don't be happy. This doesn't mean anything for you. It's all about Xenosaga. As a Sonic fan, you're very used to keeping expectations low and realistic. Well, I'm hoping Xenoblade as a series never gets to the point that Sonic got to. That series has some high points, and it's obviously coming back recently, but yeah. So, the next thing I want to talk about, once I've poured another drink, because fucking hell, I don't think I've spoken this much about one thing in a long time, is the game's ending. Specifically, the post-credit scene. Because I kind of just want to explain what actually happened there, just in case there's some confusion. I don't think there should be any confusion. I think it's pretty clear but, you know, what I find clear is not necessarily clear to everyone. So basically, we saw the Mobius symbol representing Ionios, two worlds separated, drifted apart as we were told they were going to. But then they came together. They fused into one. Now, what people have actually noticed is they put the post-credit scene of the base game and the post-credit scene of Future Redeemed side by side, and they line up perfectly. At the exact moment that Noah starts to hear Mio's flute is when the two worlds start to properly merge in Future Redeemed. We don't know why that happened, or how. The only thing we know at this point is that it did happen. And presumably, this new merged world is going to play quite a big role in the future of the series. But that's not the only thing that happened. There was a very mysterious blue light. It's very small, but quite pronounced, drifting towards the planet at the end. There has been a lot of speculation about what that light could be. First of all, I want to get the realistic, boring answer out of the way. And that's that the light has something to do with either A or Origin coming back to the world after doing whatever they did to fuse it together. That's the boring answer that kind of wraps the series up nicely and doesn't leave any loose ends. I've seen some people going off the Xenoblade X references and saying that it's Elmer. But if those X references are proper connections, then the timeline just doesn't work for that one, and I don't know why people keep suggesting it. Because if X was connected, Elmer would have already been to the Earth prior to that point. The other X reference that I see quite a bit is that it's the white whale coming down to the merged world that has become Mira. And I quite like this one, obviously, as a fan of X. And Mira, obviously, as I've said, has quite a lot in common with Ionios and the worlds of Xenoblade 1 and 2, so it could very realistically be the fused world years in the future, and would quite nicely lead us into an X remaster, possible sequel, you know, a few years down the line. But the blue light is actually where I tend to favour the Xenosaga side of the theories. Because just like the X radio stuff lined up too well, it lines up too well. So Xenosaga mostly wraps up its own story by the end of Xenoblade 3. Not the end of Xenoblade 3, sorry, the end of Xenosaga 3. But it ends, like Future Redeemed did, with a post-credit scene. That post-credit scene is a damaged Cosmos floating through space, bathed in blue light, towards the planet Earth, which has reappeared after having mysteriously disappeared quite a while ago and has been missing since. You see how they line up quite well. Now, I don't necessarily think that Xenosaga can just be latched on and said to be canon, because, again, it needs a lot of retconning to make that work. But I also know that Cosmos is Monolith Soft's baby. She's basically their mascot. And if they can find a way to pull her out of that finished story and bring her back properly and not as just like a blade or something, I can see them wanting to do that. And Namco do seem like they'd be willing to let them do that. Obviously, they've let them use Cosmos. So I don't think the context of how they're using it is really going to change their mind. Blue, it's Sonic. I mean, Frontiers did have a lot in common with X, so, you know, maybe that's X too. It's Riku. Obviously, Sap solved it. It's always Riku. Riku is the answer to everything. So obviously, I've been over all of this stuff, all of this Xenoblade X information, all of this Xenosaga information. But what is actually next for Xenoblade, in my opinion? Well, Monolith Soft have had a very consistent release schedule since 2015. They've never gone more than 2 years without some kind of Xenoblade release. In 2015, we obviously got Xenoblade X and we got Xenoblade 3D. 2 years later, in 2017, we got Xenoblade 2. That carried through into 2018 with Torna. 2 years after that, in 2020, we got Xenoblade Definitive Edition. 2 years after that, they managed to keep to the schedule even with COVID. We got Xenoblade 3. And that carried into 2023 with Future Redeemed. 2 years after 2023 is 2025, which we're about just over 2 months away from. Considering they were able to keep this schedule up even with COVID in the middle, I think it's quite likely we're going to see something from Monolith Soft next year. However, I don't think it's going to be a brand new game yet. It's entirely possible they managed to get Xenoblade 2 out 2 years after X, but that game also released in a bit of a rough state. It was clearly quite rushed, and I imagine they'd probably want to avoid doing that again. Now, 2025 is likely to be the release year of the Nintendo Switch 2, or whatever they end up calling it. So I think Nintendo are, again, going to push for Monolith to have something on the Switch, because they obviously value Monolith quite a bit. They're quite an important studio to Nintendo, and they put out games that really show the power of the console. But do you know what else 2025 is? Let me just get a prop to demonstrate this. 2025 is the 10th anniversary of a certain game. A certain game that I've been talking quite a bit today, that is locked to Wii U. Maybe I'm getting high on the copium. Maybe I'm just pulling strings together out of nowhere until they tell the story that I want to tell. But I am confident. I think next year it's time. I think we're getting our X remaster. And I think it's going to be on Switch 2. And I think the extra power of that console is really going to do X justice. It's already a pretty game on the Wii U of all things. And just imagine that world with so much more power behind it. I can't wait. I want to see it. I hope it's real. There is also the possibility of Xenosaga remasters. Those have been rumored quite a bit. And honestly, again, I think they're quite likely. Clearly, Xenosaga is on Monolith's mind at the moment. I just don't think they're necessarily going to be tied into Monolith's time frame, because like with the Baten Kaitos remasters that we got, I think Namco themselves would probably handle the bulk of the development on that, with Monolith maybe just stepping in and overseeing things. But regardless of which remaster we end up getting next year, because we're definitely getting one, I think 2027 is probably the earliest that we could see the next mainline Xenoblade game. There is also the possibility of some kind of spin-off. I know Nintendo does like to do spin-offs for their more successful franchises. And I think with how Xenoblade has performed on the Switch and how much it's grown, I think it could be one of those franchises that Nintendo would want to do something for. And I know a lot of people have floated around the idea of a Xenoblade Warriors or something. Honestly, I'd kind of love to see that. I do quite enjoy the Warriors games a fair bit. They're always chock full of fun gameplay and fan service, and I would eat a Xenoblade one up so much. But back to 2027, back to the next new Xenoblade game. What form do I personally think it's going to take? I've seen 3 major theories and ideas as to what the next Xeno game is going to be. I'm going to kind of get the one I consider to be the most unrealistic out of the way first. And that is Xenosaga 4. I have seen some people that genuinely believe that the next game is going to be Xenosaga 4. And look, I admire that they love the Xenosaga series. It's a series that was instrumental in getting us to having Xenoblade, so it is very important. I think it does deserve a little bit more time in the sun. But its story's done. It's an old PS2 trilogy that honestly didn't do that well, that's owned by another company. While that company is willing to cooperate and let Monolith use things from that series, I can't see Nintendo going, hey, you've just made this successful new IP for us. Throw it away for your old one that was a flop that another company owns. They're not going to do that. You know, potentially, the next Xenoblade game could tie quite heavily into Xenosaga and continue on it in some way, but it's not going to be Xenosaga 4. That one we can just... I'm quite confident that one we can just... go, no, that's not a thing that's going to happen. The one that I would like to see, I think there's going to be no surprises here, no prizes for guessing what I'm going to say, is Xenoblade X2. I did say that Xenoblade 3 had kind of surpassed X as my favourite game in the series, and it has, just because it's a more overall balanced product. But I love X to death. That game, that world, that story has so much potential. And I think a sequel that fixed some of the issues with the game and fully realised that potential could be amazing. We know quite a fair bit about some of the plot elements that didn't quite make it into X, and if they can take those, fully kind of make them work with the new story and continuity they've got going on, and just pull it all together, I think they could have something really special on their hands. And I want to see it. I want X, even if it's not canon to the trilogy, even if it's its own thing still, I desperately need to see that story finished. I need to see what happens to those characters, what happens to that world. Because that is how I got into this series, and I want that game to have its future redeemed moment. I want it to have a satisfying conclusion that brings everything together. Because I think it really does deserve it. I don't think it deserves to remain as the black sheep of the series forever. You know, we already have one of those. We have Xenosaga 2. And even that got a sequel. The most realistic possibility, I think, is just Xenoblade 4. Continuing on sometime after the events of Future Redeemed in the new world. Possibly picking up on some of those references, some of those X and Saga connections to tell a new story. You know, fishing from those old games for ideas to tell something new. And I think it's quite likely that this theoretical Xenoblade 4 is going to lean more heavily into the sci-fi side of things, because the Xenoblade trilogy has been getting progressively more and more sci-fi and less fantasy as it's been going on, and I think that trend is going to continue. So maybe Xenoblade 4 could still have playable mechs. Please, I need them back. But honestly, whatever form the next Xenoblade ends up taking, I'll be there. Because at this point, I have no reason to doubt Monolith. They have earned my trust 100%. Everything that they have put out in the Xenoblade series has been absolutely incredible. This series has let me explore some amazing, beautiful worlds. It's introduced me to so many fascinating characters. I've had so much fun with the gameplay systems of these games. And I just know that whatever the next version of that is going to be amazing. I just know it. Oh, right, let's catch up on chat. Are they going to redo Xenoblade 1 again? Xenoblade 3D Definitive Edition? Oh, I hope not. I like Xenoblade 1, but I do think it is a tad overrated, and it is my least favourite of all of the games. Definitive Edition is a perfectly fine version. We don't need any other version of Xenoblade 1. Xenoblade 2 Definitive Edition. They simply have no older game that hasn't been remade. Ignoring the little jokey jab at X there. I wouldn't be opposed to a Xenoblade 2 Definitive Edition. I don't necessarily think that the Switch 2 would be the best console for that, considering it's probably going to be backwards compatible, or at least it will be, if Nintendo have any sense at all. But 2 is a game that desperately needs the quality of life improvements that Definitive Edition got. So I would absolutely snap a Xenoblade 2 Definitive Edition up in a heartbeat, especially if it also included Torna. I don't know what kind of extra story they would include in that, though, if they did, because there isn't really that much room to expand on Xenoblade 2's story without stepping on Xenoblade 3. So maybe its version of having an extra story would be just including Torna for free. Want to place a bet? All right. Maybe not. I can't really afford to make a bet right now. But I do feel very confident. And if I'm wrong, I will deny having ever made the claim in the first place, just to save face. Xenoblade Chronicles Y. Maybe that would be a better name than Xenoblade Chronicles XX for a sequel. Then we'd get Xenoblade Chronicles Z as our final game, which would be pretty cool. Hear you out, Xenoblade Kart. I mean, you joke. That'd be pretty fun. And there'd be a lot of very beautiful tracks that they could do. Like, imagine just zipping around Araya at high speeds. Oh, that'd be great. They could make all the karts various mechs from the series that have been turned into a car. Oh my god, we've got an idea here. We're cooking. Xenoblade Kart, yeah. And you'd have to reference X in that, because obviously that's got the most mechs out of any game in the series, so yeah, let's do it. Maybe we'll get Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, Future Connected Definitive Edition. Obviously that's what we need, yeah. Fair enough, denial is a solid strategy. That it is. A 2 remaster should come with a Tiger Tiger sequel. I mean, to be fair, I think I actually like Tiger Tiger more than a lot of people do. I think it's quite addictive. So if they expanded on it, I'd be thrilled. Yeah, give us a full Tiger Tiger side mode. That'd be pretty cool. Juju, best character in Xenokart. Now, see, the problem with playing as Juju is that even when you're driving in a straight line, his buggy will just go like that into the nearest wall. It's just uncontrollable. You can't stop it happening. Tiger Tiger, but it has a minigame of Xenoblade Chronicles 2 built in. Pyra and Mithra could be a double dash style duo character. Oh, yeah, that could work. I mean, you could probably do that with a lot of the Xenoblade 2 characters. Have the driver driving, and then have the blades like on the back doing some other stuff. That'd work. Actually, yeah, that would really work quite well. And then Xenoblade 3, you've got the Ouroboros pairs as well, so they would work as character pairs. Xenoblade X, I think you can pair up Xenoblade X characters quite easily, because obviously you've got Arena and Gwyn, they're a pair. Elmer and Lynn, they're a pair. Doug and Lau, they're a pair. Fry and Fog, they're a pair. All of the characters are kind of paired up in their relationships anyway. The only one that you'd kind of maybe have to bullshit some pairs together is Xenoblade 1, and yeah, why not? Shulk and Ryan, Fiora and Dunban, Sharla and Melia, Ricky and his 2 kids as a joint character. I'd probably like Tiger Tiger more if it weren't for the shitty D-pad on the Pro controller. Yeah, that's more of an issue with the Switch, though. Like, when I played it, when Xenoblade 2 was the big game that I was playing while I was at uni, when I was traveling a lot, I tended to play and do my Tiger Tiger grinding whenever I was on the train. And in handheld mode, it was fine. But I didn't really have any issue with it at all. So I think it really is just... It's an issue with this thing. It's a great controller. I love the weight of it, but that sucks. Lin and Tatsu. Actually, yeah, that probably would be the pairing. I suppose they could just give you default Cross and pair them with Elmer. Obviously, it'd be the female cross because waifus sell. Right, as much as I'm enjoying this chat, guys, I think I've been sitting here droning on for longer than I've actually been playing the game today. So, I've said everything that I need to say. All my thoughts on Future Redeemed and Xenoblade 3 as a whole, they're all on the table now. You all know what I think. We've had a good discussion about those references, where we think the series could be going. I think it's time to put a lid on things. I think it's time to finish up for the evening. Now, obviously, I'm not done with Xenoblade 3 Future Redeemed just yet, because there's still a little bit of post-game stuff and a couple of side quests that I need to finish off. But that's why we have the stream tomorrow. That's what tomorrow's stream is going to be about. So, I'll see you all for that. I can't believe we're here. Nearly at the end of this series. It's been going on for... Well, if we count when I started Xenoblade 1, we've been going for about 1.5 years now. So, yeah, it's been wild. Elma's duo could be her missing partner. Oh, yeah, that's true. You know, if we did get an X Definitive Edition, we could learn a bit more about him. You know, there's our possible expansion story. Anyway. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you've enjoyed the stream. I'll be back tomorrow for one final stream of Xenoblade Chronicles 3 Future Redeemed. And not just one final stream of Future Redeemed. One final stream of Xenoblade for the time being. Have a good one, guys. And I'll see you later. Bye. And I hope you're all feeling full of beans tomorrow, because I will be.